this budget.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock. I direct your attention to the fact that this is a meeting of the Finance Committee. Today is Tuesday, November 21st. It's 7 o'clock. We're on the second floor, room 21 of 54 South Ave, Town Hall. And we are meeting in attendees, all present. And the meeting minutes you have emailed in advance to you from October 30th, which, as you recall, was the special town meeting for our pre-meeting, and November 14th, which was last week. Reserve fund stands at $35,000. Public forum, we have nobody here to bring up anything that is not on the agenda. So new business tonight, we have budget meetings with police at 7:15 and the veteran services at 7:45. Also in the new business, we would like to propose some amendments to the meeting schedule. We have our standing subcommittee reports, and town administrator is on vacation, so we won't get any updates from the town administrator, and there were no communications in the mailbox. So you'll see the upcoming meetings for the rest of the near future are listed there. And so, why don't we take the meeting minutes from October 30th? Does everybody have that in front of them? So it's a single page 643, and it was called to order at 7 o'clock in the auditorium of the town hall. So we really only had one amendment to review and vote, and that was done at that meeting. Under old business, talked a little bit about schedule, and no communications, and the motion to adjourn was at 7:04. Oh, boy, that was quick. 4 minutes? Was it? I think it was a little longer than that one. Oh, you did? Really? Wow. Okay. Do you have any questions or amendments to the previous meeting minutes from October 30th? Rosemary.
Oh, no, this is, sorry, November 14th. Forget about it.
All right, then seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes
So
as
moved.
presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. We move now to the meeting minutes from November 14th, starting on page 644. So call to order at 7 o'clock. We just did a quick review of the special town meeting. Talked a little bit about, again, in advance of these budget meetings, there was really not a lot on the agenda for November 14th meeting. Does anybody see anything on page 644?
I do. Ms.
Rosemary.
Conley noted the draft did not include two very important aspects. So I said the information presented did not include that the first 4 years would not be included, as we don't pay until we break ground. Unless the town is choosing to make very poor financial decisions, it's fine. Correct projection per debt per household. That's right. So it's the first 4
So
years.
I had it backwards. He did include 4 years.
He
and they shouldn't have been
included 4 years that we wouldn't
That you
have.
shouldn't have been included.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been included.
And then I would probably just amend the sentence under new business when the first bullet point where it says, concern of the graph presented in the middle of the meeting by Selectman Sean Kane. It did not include complete information and was used as propaganda for those not in favor of the current Whitman school. I think maybe we should just insert between was and used Ms. Connolly's contention that it was used as propaganda.
Am I alone in that contention?
Well, you said it.
Yeah, I'm concerned that it was used as propaganda.
Just like I said, it wasn't the unanimous position of the board. That's the only reason I like that.
You want to take a vote on that?
No, I'm fine with it. Anything else on page 644?
I wasn't here, but it looks like a grammatical thing. The bullet Mr. Anderson mentioned, the difficult conversations had throughout. I think it's he had throughout. Is it your conversations
No, they were
or just,
all collectively our
Okay.
conversations.
okay.
Is there a better way to say it?
I get rid of the word had, probably. I mentioned the difficult conversations throughout the, yeah. It just,
Okay.
it just reads a little weird, that's all.
I read it twice too, but then the second time it sounded like it fit. But we could take it out. Take the word "had" out.
Conversations.
Yeah.
Like I said, I read it twice, and the second time
Yeah,
it
it's like
sounded
which
fine.
took place or something, it's, yeah, that's all. It's just,
It's quickly, it's not, I was concerned it was for level funding and not level service, that's right. That's correct.
Okay.
My glasses.
Moving to page 645 then. We're still talking about a little preparation for budget meetings and the budget mailing. Then we went into old business, talked a little bit about recordings and our standing items, and at the end, Rosemary mentioned about the HERO Act, and that was forwarded to Ralph as the liaison to that department. Anything to amend on page 645?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of just reword a little bit something. First paragraph, midway through, Mr. Colby mentioned it would be a good idea to ensure the policymakers keep in mind the most recent growth. I think what I was trying to say, if we took out the most recent growth, what I was trying to say is the most recent financial commitments the taxpayers have made and the increase on their taxes. That's what I'm trying to.
How about looming challenges or something? Is that what you were trying to
Yeah, I was
say?
trying to make sure everybody stays aware of the
What
financial
we already
commitments we've
accepted.
made and all the money that everybody's going to be paying as they go forth with all the other budgets.
Do you want to mention something about the three large capital projects, maybe?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
the context?
yeah. Well, how's this sound? Mr. Colby wanted to keep policymakers keep in mind the most recent financial commitments on the capital projects that were made.
The three large capital projects.
Large capital projects and the impact on the taxes for the taxpayers.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
That sounds better.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Did you get that? Okay, thank you, Chuck. Anything else on page 645? And since that's the last page, I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes
Second.
as amended. Further questions? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 2 abstentions. Kathleen and Mike Warner, either absent.
I'll try the end.
All right.
I was actually, because my daughter's 50.
Who was too? Well, work pregnant.
Elizabeth, thank you very much as usual for excellent meeting minutes. Okay. So, meeting minutes complete. Please,
I think they're out there.
Yep, he's out there.
you can invite him in. We'll take him in 5 minutes early. That's how efficient we are tonight. Hopefully we'll have you out of here on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, she did. She always has. She's.
Probably in a contract negotiated with the selectmen.
Right. It was interesting.
Chief, you can sit up here if you like.
I say, I think our assessor does, our clerk does a better, cleaner job. Way. Don Farley, I got a new appreciation for her. You know what to tell me.
Ralph, how are you? Guys.
Hey, G player.
Hello.
You got stuff for us. Yeah.
Here we go.
This is going to be nothing new.
You're a veteran at this point. Chief, is there anybody that you don't know at the table?
No.
Okay,
I know everybody.
all right. So as in previous budget meetings, what we'll do is just have you go around and present your budget, and we'll open it up to questions from the board.
Sure. Okay, so it's once again it's straightforward. There are a number of lines And as you can see, what we spent in '23, our budget '24 across the columns, and then what we're looking for in '25 on that first sheet, and then it's the difference is the amount on each line. So at the end of last fiscal year, the deputy chief and I hadn't really had undergone contract negotiations. So last year it was, we didn't know what we were going to be putting in for. So I think it was, we put in for like 5%, I think, to start, and then that got resolved through contract negotiations. So we were at 2.5, which was across the board for department heads and such. So we both did 3-year contract negotiations. This will be year 2 of that, and as part of that, so those are contractual raises for each of us on the first 2 lines for police and deputy chief. Of all of the services, which is where we pay the employees out of, the officers. We can figure that a little bit out on the next page, but that went up. And that's a result of going up with contractual raises as well as step raises within those contracts for the officers. And then, as you all should know, or hopefully know by now, that I add in as many shifts that we do not fill through the course of the year, and then add those back into the budget. So we are not at level funding. We haven't been for a number of years. I know this board, this committee has been good about trying to chip away at that over the years, and we've done so. We're still not there yet. The other issue with the all of the services line is we had people out on extended leave for one reason or another, so we were shorthanded at one time by 25% of the workforce, meaning the officers, and that's hard to deal with budgetary-wise, but also when you're trying to manage a department personnel-wise, because now you're forcing people to work additional shifts because we're around the clock. So we're doing shift work, morale gets low, because they're not there necessarily by choice. And now instead of 8, you're working 16 hours, and sometimes it's overnights, and that disrupts your personal schedule. So that's more or less kind of like the snowball effect. And that's been over a year for a lot of them. It's just the way the process works. If they go out for a particular reason on extended leave, by the time we figure out all the moving parts and what they're going to do, whether they're going to be retired on disability, straight retirement, or come back to work, that is a process. So we had 2 go out for a fairly short time, and by short time I mean between 4 and 6 months, and then the other 3 were out extended. One of them just retired medically through a medical disability through Plymouth County Retirement, so he's coming off the books. And we have 2 still waiting in the wings. They're going through the retirement process, but they have to go through Plymouth County and then get approved through PARAC before any of that happens. So that has a huge effect on all those things, including our budget. Looking down the line, it's clerical and records clerk, which is Tracy and Melissa by name. They got step raises as well as going up across the board, so that's included. The auxiliary police expense, as you know, it went up to $20,000, and this is the last year of the bridge coming up. But I just wanted to make sure we have enough money in there, so that just remained the same for now, and that should go down in future years, but not for 25. The expense line, we kind of raised that to the bare minimum we could, and occupancy did go up, but everything else is going up. So again, we tried to keep that to a minimum. So that's sheet one. Sheet two, I mentioned the shifts not filled. That was 494. We looped that into the budget, and as I've said before, it would be nice to get back to level funding so that we could fill all or many of the shifts, and we're not there yet. And obviously, we haven't been able to fill shifts. Part of that reason is for our manpower shortage. We just didn't have a body to put there, so we ran shorthanded because we had to, out of necessity, not because we couldn't fill it. But I think the people, the residents here, they enjoy good public safety, and that's what we provide to them, and that's what we intend on continuing to provide. The issue is how do we do that moving forward. So between the two retirements that we just had, we're anticipating one in March, give or take a couple of months, and the people who have been out. So that causes another issue, which is hiring. And hiring is a process. So it's a 5-month plus police academy. And the issue there is after they come out of the police academy, then they have to do some field training. So they're not ready quite yet to just man a shift and go out and do everything. Prior to police reform, we had a number of ways of recruiting, and one of those was a part-time academy. And the part-time academy gave us an opportunity to see what we were bringing aboard. If it wasn't the right fit either for the department or the individual, then we sometimes parted ways, and that gave us a good idea of who was able and capable and willing to be able to come aboard. Part of that process is a civil service process, which doesn't really have anything to do with the budget, but it is part of our hiring process. And so we had, at one time through civil service, I believe it was like 15 reserve officers. And we send them to the part-time academy, which is part of training. And then if they make it to a full-time slot, either with us or another department, then they will go to a full-time academy. Police reform adjusted that, and out of police reform, what happened was you could not, they did away with the part-time academy. So there are no more part-time people, there are no more junior league, farm team, if you will, however you want to put it. And so now we're straight out of the gate. So we just graduated our last 2 reserve officers. They're going to be on a shortened FTO program because they already know our system, they know our streets, they've been around for several years. It's going to be easier for them to occupy a shift sooner. We do have 2 more in the Plymouth Academy, and they're going through that process, and I think it's a middle of January graduation. But then it's going to be, again, that would be the 5-month timeline, and then it's going to be probably a minimum of 3 months of field training. So you're looking at, 9+ months by the time all is said and done, from the time someone leaves one way or another.
Next year at this time.
Yeah.
Before they're really
Ready. And that puts also another burden on the department because that comes out of our all other services and whatever they need to wear and be equipped with. Also the expense line. So we're paying people who are out, and then we're hiring more people, which
challenge.
And that's a challenge, particularly this year. We are pretty much we're running almost at a deficit right now. We're going to have to shut shifts off coming up really soon, and this is way too early to kind of be thinking of doing that. Unfortunately, this is where we are with the budget. So per things that have gone on last year, this is everybody's their names, what they previously earned, what their earnings for, well, straight, without overtime or anything. Will come out to, for the fiscal year, and the total is down there at the bottom, and that number at the bottom, the 2,379,241, that is before you're adding in overtime and training and court time and everything else. Yeah, night differential. Thank you, Tracy. You speak up whenever you feel like you need to. Yeah.
So that's a lot.
And so that's where we are. That is the Reader's Digest version. We can get more in depth, but these are really the minimum numbers that we kind of look at. I understand that based on the direction of the town as far as trying to keep numbers low. I've said this before, I'll say it again. We're always being team players, and we're going to continue to do that. And as far as I just added in this capital improvement, where in order for us to stay on track with vehicles, we're going to replace one. It's going to be an admin vehicle because the last vehicle that falls off the bottom is an unmarked for detectives, so it's going to start off and move back down. And the other couple of things that happened, not that everyone looks forward to this, but we had totaled a couple of marked cruisers, and so through the town, through Maya, we have replacement value. So we are going to get newer marked cars and replacing the older ones that get crashed. So that's the silver lining to being involved in a car crash. Nobody was hurt as far as officers in either one of those. And, we don't like to see those happen, but they did happen. And if you're looking for a silver lining, that's it. We're replacing those. So it might have been another marked car this year, but where we're replacing two, we're going to get those to be brand new marked units, and now it's time for an admin. And at some point, we may need to ask for two, but to continue on basically with the fleet model we've been using, we're looking to replace that one car.
So one of the goals is to crash at least 2 a year?
Don't say that.
Those are your words.
That's not intentional. We're recorded now.
So that's where we stand. It is the upside to being involved in a crash.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, replacement value.
And like you said, nobody was hurt. That's
Yeah,
a big thing.
that's always my first question with anyone. And we go from there.
All right, Chief. So I do apologize. At the beginning, I asked you if we do actually have a new member, Mike Warner.
Yeah, I know Whitman.
And so it would probably be a good idea to introduce the rest of the team.
Oh, okay, yes. Tracy Briggs and Joe Bombardier.
Chief, nice to meet you.
How you doing?
Tracy, Joe, thank you for coming as well. So we will then open it up for questions. We'll start with Al and then go to Mike.
It was a great presentation, by the way. What's the percentage difference from last year to this proposed budget for fiscal year 25? What's the percentage?
Overall,
Yeah.
it's the 7.1 total.
7.1?
So on page 2, Al, it's actually at the bottom of that little.
I can't even see, that's
Good
why.
that
Yeah.
little pie chart actually has.
Yeah.
I put that all
7.1.
in, so it would get all.
7.1.
I'm glad you put that percentage because none of the
Right, it's
budgets
not a
that came in had it.
No, 7.1.
Second page. You're right.
Middle page, yeah, it's in the box,
Yeah.
at the top,
If-
bottom right corner.
Yeah, if for some reason all these other town budgets don't come in line, where do you see where you can make cuts? That's the concern that I think was going to really happen. We have two major projects going on. You got the school, you got that going on at Clay. You also have the building, the DPW, and then we're going to have obviously capital issues too going down the road. So I'm not asking you for specifics for now, but that may be coming down the pipeline.
So the thing that's kept us afloat is trying to manage those number of shifts that we don't.
Right.
And that's, that gets spread out over pretty much the course of the year.
Right.
And that's what we continue to do. So I think I made a reference at one point, we can't just close for the month of June
Right.
and resume at the next fiscal year because we ran out of money. So instead of, I think it was like 360 shifts,
Right.
which would close out a month,
Right.
we would spread those out over the course of a year. But
Yeah.
that's really what it
Yeah.
equals.
How many new hires did you have the past couple of years?
So we had 2 people retire.
Yeah.
So we put 2 on.
Okay.
4 or 5 were out on extended leave.
Right.
And so we pushed the selectmen to start the process early. So we did get 2 into this, the academy really quickly.
Right.
So we, from soup to nuts, from bringing them in, doing the background investigations,
Right.
getting them ready, jumping through all the hoops between
Right.
a letter of intent, to hire them,
Yeah.
through civil service, to get them approved through civil service, get them equipped, get them ready to go.
Yeah.
One of them didn't even have a license to carry. We had to get that on the fly when she was hired. So, and we took her to the range a couple of times to make sure she was confident enough to get through things. Some of it is the physical part too, so we can put people through the paces. There's 2 different PAT tests.
Yeah.
One is, more related to the job, and then the other one is more like a Cooper standard. If you're familiar with that, it's a 1.5 mile run. It's push-ups. They replace the sit-ups with the planks,
Yeah.
and you have to hit the bare minimum to
Right.
get into a police academy, as well as all the post requirements.
Right. Right.
You have to submit to them, and they're not considered officers yet.
Yeah.
They're considered, basically student officers, but
Yeah. Do you see for any future, obviously, capital expenses that you will be looking for down the
other than
road?
the car, so the other thing we're looking at is our tasers.
Yeah.
We were doing 6 a year for a number of years, I think 5 or 6 years, so we had about 30 of them, plus some extra ones for the auxiliaries.
Yeah.
And so the current taser model is the X26P, and they're basically at their end of, or have been at their end of life. So now there was an in-between, so we skipped a model. The Taser 7 was the next one up, and now it's the Taser 10 is the next one. So we're going to end up having to replace those, and if we did those 6 at a time rather than replacing all of them,
Right.
you're looking at another 5 or 6 years. So now the ones that are more or less obsolete now are going to have to stretch us through the next 5 or 6 years. And the other thing that seems to be a game changer is the red dot sights, it's basically, if you see the old Terminator movies and you see the laser beam go across, that's not it anymore. Now it's a picture window, and there's a red dot, and you're looking through the viewfinder, whatever you're pointing that red dot is, but it's not, the dot doesn't show up on your body or anything else. It's just the viewfinder and the picture sight that you're looking through. And that
Target doesn't get any early warning.
Well, you can't duck and cover.
that goes from maybe the mid 80s in a qualifying score to very close to 100, if not 100 every time. So that's a big game changer for us. And then you throw in stress,
No.
and someone who's actually under stress and actually has to
Right.
shoot their firearm, you're going to be a lot better off than potentially not looking at the regular sights.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
So mine was kind of similar. It's just looking at the math here. Your shifts that are not currently staffed versus what we're paying. Would it not make sense to add another officer? Would another officer alleviate the less shifts that we have?
So with additional officer or officers, then as they progress through their career, they earn more vacation time, more sick time, all of those things, and then there's another potential. It could make sense, and just as easily it could make sense to just fill the shifts that we have. So So it's either, you could go either way probably. You could add to the workforce, and I know the fire department did that under Chief Greno, and they got a whole nother.
Is it different now? Is it different now, Chief, with the amount of time that they can carry over year?
As far as
PTO time or?
no, that's standard. That's part of the contract.
Okay.
But when I came on in 2000,
Right.
it was kind of an aged department.
Right.
And so from basically the couple people who were ahead of me that are still on the force, two of them are on, one of them is out currently and awaiting a decision
Right.
on their retirement status. And then it's the other two I went to the academy with,
Right.
lieutenant and a sergeant now. And so now we're at the front end 20 years later, and now our department is aging or aged all over again. So the turnover is going to start to
Right.
come back around. I think, Joe, how many was it, like 15 within the
We
span
hired
of a couple
15
years?
off of one civil service list,
Yeah.
which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Normally, a civil service list lasts a couple of years.
Right.
We hired 15 people off of one list, which is, it just doesn't happen.
For a full-time department of 26.
Right.
It did.
That's 2/3, right?
And, but
Yeah.
that was good. We were all young at one point, and we had a young
Sure
department.
have, haven't we?
Now,
Yeah.
when we're all aging out, now we got people
Yeah.
falling off 2 a year probably from
No, but
now
like-
until the next 8 years.
Al,
Go ahead.
we got to go in order here.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Okay.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay, great, thanks. I'm going to ask the standard questions about the population. Has that population change affected any needs, ESL, anything like that, or size?
We haven't really noticed it, but the officers do notice when, like you say, ESL, there's a language barrier, and we're coming across that a little bit more frequently now, and that is a burden for a lot of reasons, obviously. The communication piece of what actually happened, and what are we going to, and what are we looking for. And then the other piece is just being able to get them whatever help they need. And if we make an arrest, right, and we arrest somebody who, English isn't their first language, it's, second or third maybe, we have to provide them with rights, and they can't be in English. They have to be in their
Once they
language.
understand.
Otherwise we run afoul of number one, the arrest and the procedure, and and their rights as far as why are they being arrested and how long are we keeping them. So, and there aren't a whole lot of translation services for us to come across. So that's an issue there. I don't see it necessarily in the population, but we do come across them.
Have an increased total population? Is it affected increased calls? Or is it pretty regular? What's going on with the calls?
So I look at it probably maybe a little bit differently. So I see it as, if you're a proactive department, you're going to be able to go out and find a lot more than you would be if you just answered calls. And during COVID, for a time, we didn't want to interact with anybody unless we absolutely necessarily had to. So traffic stops went down, and there weren't people out at that time really doing much of anything anyways. And so we're trying to not be reactive like we were, but we're shorthanded.
To be
So
proactive.
now it's a little bit more difficult. So we get complaints for different things, and I'm just going to use a common one, is like speeding. But if we don't run any radar when in any particular area, right, we're not going to catch any speeders if we don't do that. But if we do, then we're going to probably catch the appropriate number of people who are speeding down that street, right? If we're out there doing it, our numbers are going to increase, and if we're not looking for it, our numbers are going to stay low. So you can adjust those statistics based
And
on
what you're doing.
how proactive you are. So that's
I'm
kind of
thinking in terms of total costs and probably not speeding, violent crimes. The same from the I think I sent you a
So the other,
cost of crime calculator from those sort of parameters.
yeah, so the biggest other outlier for us, and it's not an outlier anymore for anyone, is the mental health calls. And so we had, and we haven't been able to fill the position, so it was a collaborative between us and the Bridgewaters and Middleborough, where we had a clinician available to either respond in an emergency with us or do follow-ups. And so that kind of prevented, instead of making it 5 times before they got to the right services, right, that we responded, it was like 1 and a visit, and let's plug them into services they need. So then the remaining calls for service we wouldn't have to go to, because we weren't responding to the crisis, we were kind of fixing it along the way.
You're getting ahead of it.
Yeah, and that's the better model, obviously. So now you take mental health calls and hopefully shorten those. So that was the key there. And the officers are like, here's another one, here's another one. So it's not a shortage of calls, it's just how you manage them. And that's what we've seen. So we need trying to get the clinician back up and running, but with everything else, it's their salary is included. They could probably go do something else. So it really needs to be the right person for the right fit, and we had that, and she went elsewhere to do the same thing, just at a different department. Instead of the number of towns, she went to one city.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened there.
So then there was just going to be, it's the standard 3, any law changes, and of course you have the Police Reform Act that has the new board, so that any additional requirements that I know they're still kind of working through that
Yeah,
you have to meet this year.
I guess we just we rolled with the punches. For us, it was more of a reporting than it was modifying much of anything.
Okay.
There were a couple of policies that we ended up changing. Use of force and de-escalation was a big thing. So we just updated the policy to reflect what they wanted it to be, and went from there. So, of course, that affects the training, which is usually done at in-service. So that wasn't as much of a cost for us as a department. We just did it at in-service. We did a couple of specialized trainings that added to the all other services line, which includes training, but it wasn't that big of a hurdle at the time. And the only other piece to that is, in addition to individual officers being certified, departments are going to have to be certified in their policies. So we're going to have to do a review of that, and that is going to
Do you know when that's
take a
due?
little bit. I don't. I'm not sure most does either. So
Call up.
yeah,
Got my
Put it on
guys
Joe's
over there.
yeah, like everything else.
Accreditation.
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
So that's where we stand.
Well, thank you, Rosemary. Go ahead, Ralph.
I just have a question. What about for maintenance of equipment like radios and computer systems? Is that included here also?
So most of that is done through IT. We have
Okay.
maintenance agreements on a lot of it. We went digital as far as our radio system to communicate to the cruisers and surrounding towns. We went digital, and then so when other towns go digital, which Hanson just did, that requires an update to our portables, our radio in the station, and then the mobile units that are in the cars, and we're in the process of that. So
Is that
through,
replacing the old ones with the new digital system, or is that?
yeah, we already did that.
Okay.
So we're up to date on that. It's just a matter of when, so now it's a reprogramming issue, and what we did we use Industrial Communications, and what they do is they gave us the cables, they gave us the software, And instead of paying them to come out and sit there and watch the radio, watch the update go by and then change one out every half an hour, we can do that ourselves. And so that's part of the process. So we figured that was cost savings, and we did that in conjunction with the IT department, and we're pretty confident that that's going to work out to our benefit. Other things as far as maintaining the station, we've put through in the past, capital articles to replace boilers, water heaters, so we could be up to code. We could maybe use some interior paint here and there. The idea is it was a brand new building in 2011, but to
So that's
keep
been
it
a
that
few
way,
years ago.
yeah. But to us, it's still brand new.
From a Whitman standard.
To the taxpayer.
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
and we'd like to remain there as long as possible. Certainly until the building is paid off. And I think someone else did a slideshow on when that's going to come off in the next year or two. I think so.
Getting close.
Yeah. So anyways, unfortunately, the building itself has issues because it's you're going with the lowest bidder. The footprint was reduced back in the day, which threw off the HVAC system to a certain extent. And then it's okay. You have all these different things with. It's a computer program that actually runs the HVAC as far as temperature control, humidity control, a lot of other things. And if they're not talking to each other, they're both the lower end of the spectrum because they're the lowest bidder and they're looking to put in there whatever they can. And we want a system that works. So for a bunch of years, we've had a flood. And the flood was based on the HVAC system. The condensate from pulling in raw air that had humid in the summer,
Yeah.
and then it would think about your air conditioner in the window, right? It's gonna
You didn't put a pump system.
it's gonna drip. Well, I think it was it might have been gravity fed.
Oh boy.
And it doesn't matter if it's gravity, but as soon as that drain gets plugged up, then it fills up and it overflows. And our HVAC system was right over our electrical panel on the first floor, and that's what shorted out everything. We've been struck by lightning. The building itself, as well as we think the tower got hit one time, and the current came up the cables and fried out some dispatch items, a bunch of radios. We've since added something on the tower to
Right,
to
remember that,
hopefully it
yeah.
hasn't happened again since. We've had the sewerage back up because it probably wasn't plumbed correctly, and so now as far as maintenance goes, we have basically Roto-Rooter comes out twice a year just for maintenance to prevent it from backing all up again.
First lot.
Yeah, hey, well,
Over that. It was the sick building was over there before that.
yeah, and we don't want to have that, the system itself inside. So if it's a very, very humid day, it's supposed to be basically protected from humidity coming in, but it isn't everywhere. So we have corners of the building on the second floor that if they don't take one of the tiles out and let the cool air and the warm air kind of mix, you get dripped on. So that's, and of course that's going to create mold, and we don't want that to happen. So we've kind of tried to mitigate that to the best of our ability, and we do that again with Josh and all the computer systems, but if they're not talking to each other, it can become an issue. So between that and all our computer servers that are downstairs that run everything from our federal CGIS systems that we can run checks on people to everything else, to our in-house computers. That generates a lot of heat, and also that creates, if there's a humidity issue there, our computers are going to get wet in the server room, and that's going to go down. So we have had to update those things. We replace the filters in the HVAC as much as we can. I think we're pretty good on, we know what the issues are and how to address them now.
Those in your, they're not in your budget, they're in the, isn't a lot of that in the Todd's budget? Wouldn't it be in Todd's budget?
No, so he'll put it through as a capital request, depending upon what it is
Okay.
for us.
Fire panel. That goes.
Yeah, the fire panel, which is upwards of, I think, a couple $100,000. We got the obsolete model installed in 2011, more or less, from what I've been told. And now we're having panel issues, so the fire department has to come over with their key and silence the alarm. You know, it's not an alarm, it's like a warning. And so it's nothing that's going to affect us, but it's an issue that needs to be addressed. So things like that.
So talk about your silver lining thing. One of the things that we're talking about with the new DPW building is to identify the deficiencies that were identified in the police headquarters and
So it doesn't
use that
happen again.
information for the DPW building. So
Yeah.
we're working with Todd to try to identify which components, the names, or, you know, and that type of thing.
Yep.
So
Yes.
at least on our next big, large municipal project. we won't-
Everybody makes a building smaller to save money, but
Right.
space is a problem for us too. Our
Right.
evidence room was way too small. We outgrew it almost the minute we moved into it.
Mm-hmm.
In our Sally Port, which is where we drive prisoners in and out of.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
We can't fit an ambulance in it,
Yeah.
which makes no sense.
It's,
A good percentage of our residents end up going, you know, they get cellulitis, they
Right.
don't like being locked up, so they claim
Yeah,
some sort of,
medical.
yeah.
Joe, what do you guys do with the medical record, not the medical
He's
records,
doing
with the records that are kept, you know? Do you guys plan on keeping them just there? The records room you guys have down there, I was there last year with you guys. That big room there was full of files.
Second floor on the front.
The first floor, I believe, was on the basement, that way.
First floor.
It was a big room.
We have a records department.
Does it take up a lot of space?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
our dead records, we call them, is a dead records room. And that's at the front of the building on the second.
Yeah, that's what it was. What do you guys do with those records?
We have to retain them.
Do you ever think of scanning them in? Because I'm in the medical field. We scan everything, and it's all controlled. And it's the paperwork that we used to have filing cabinets galore, you know, and they're all gone. It's all paperless, you know.
Yeah.
That's ideal.
It's fantastic. I mean, you'll take a look at that down the road. You know?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
call that is
Yeah.
yesterday's technology tomorrow,
Right.
as far as government goes. And
Right.
The issue with that is we just started within the past probably year and a half filing our court complaints electronically.
Right.
So you need the courts to catch up with all that. Otherwise, we have to print it out,
Right.
give it to the prosecutor. He's taking a file over anyways, and then it comes back, and then what do we do with it? So-
Electronic citations, we do.
yeah, we do that now. We get a grant for printers. We were one of the first in the state, probably, if not definitely the area. And we installed printers in the cars to print out
Oh, you did.
citations. So now, you know, we don't need a citation book
Right.
per
Right.
se, and that's all done electronically, so it's not handwritten, and it's legible, and we print it out, and then we can hand it to
That lucky person.
the violator. But and again, unfortunately, that came on the heels of COVID, so it took another year kind of for us to really implement all that.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to go back quickly to Mike's point about the unfilled shifts. Could you just talk a little bit about maybe historically 2 years ago, maybe go back 3 years, the amount of unfilled shifts, the commitment that the town administrator at the time made 2 years ago on how to start the process to get those back in filled?
Right. So we can go back.
Do you know how many unfilled shifts were 2 years ago?
So traditionally, it's roughly between, you know, it's right around 600, give or take.
Yeah.
And years prior to that, it was between 300 and, you know, go as high as 700,
Okay.
depending upon the times and the budget. But it's close to 600 all in. And then we don't fill certain things. We don't fill personal days. We don't fill specialty positions. So when a detective is out, unless there's an emergency, if they take the night off, the day off, We don't put them, they're not part of the shift per se, the uniformed officers. So then we take from that 600%. We subtract those out, and then that's how we get our number. So it's usually, like I said, 360 shifts is a full month of police work. So it's 3 shifts, 4 people per shift times 30 days is that's what it equals out to. And so, like I said, we spread that out over a year. So that's where we typically end up.
Yeah. So it's more or less the pressure relief valve for the budget for the police.
Yeah, that's
in a
how
sense.
that's the mechanism for us to stay within the budget.
Right.
But it does hurt us on the other end,
But,
because we're not being proactive when we
right.
do it.
There's no doubt about it.
And we're not doing that radar, like the chief said, which then reduces accidents in town, which then keeps people, safer and
Right.
it's
It
catch
is-
22.
it really is.
Yeah.
But it's
And that-
not
Yep.
ideal.
And the other thing with that is, while I have you, is so our policies, certain things, and I'll just use a burglar alarm, right? It's not always actually a burglary in progress or anything like that. In fact, the high majority of them, they're just
False alarm.
false alarms,
Yeah.
right? But our policy says to send 2 officers in case there is that, break. We don't know until we get there, and then we loop the structure, and if there's anything unlocked, then we'll check it out, and if it's secure, then we say it's secure and we can clear, but that the response is 2 officers, because you never know. It's going to be that one time that, so if we run short-handed and then we get a burglar alarm that we're, required to send 2 officers to, and then we get something else that comes in, we don't have any officers to send those to, or now we divide, so we're going more or less against policy, that's probably a faulty alarm, so we're going to send one person to that, and the other person is going to go find out what the other call is, whether it's, another thing we always go to a lot is, car accidents,
Yeah.
or, could be a lower priority, but, so then, or the other alternative to that is they both go to the alarm call, and then the other call sits and waits. That happens in cities all the time. So they get calls stacked, and now they're 3 and 4 deep, so if you're at home sitting waiting for a response, it's going to be based on the nature of the emergency. If you're just there to take a past making and entering to cars like we've had, they pop up, they just hit again, recently, as far as early as this morning, we were taking a number of those, and people don't want to help us out and lock their car doors for whatever reason. They think it's we're Mayberry here, which I like that. Call us Mayberry all you want. If that means we don't have any crime, or we have less crime than some other community, then fantastic. I'll wear that as a badge of honor every day. So, but we do get our fair share of things happening here. We either come up with it by proactive investigation on our own. Pretty good detective unit that goes out and tries to ferret out because they're not gonna do it out in the open. I don't think there's any necessarily open drug dealing on the street corner. There might be, you might see a random one, but it's not like the same corner every day, and it's, you can drive by and look at it if you go into Boston in certain areas. I'm sure that that's, they don't have the resources in there to hit it, but we do here. We have a pretty good sense of who's who in our community for the most part, and then there's always, if we get rid of one, then one comes in inevitably. So we try to manage those the best we can. But overall, I think we do a pretty good job. We're not sitting on our hands waiting for something. Certainly not in the detective unit. They're out there looking at it, and it's regional. So they do the web task force. So if our detectives, aren't collaborating with the other detectives in town, they're over in another town, or they're over in Brockton helping them out. So it's all the same thing, and all the players kind of, it's the network that you're trying to suppress. And, it's not just Whitman, it's everywhere. So we're trying to do the best we can to take care of that issue. It's not always easy. It's not always, we can't just snap our fingers and make it happen. We have to abide by the law and how we go about our investigations. And that's what we do.
Excellent. So, as you know, Al is the liaison for your department.
Yes.
Should something come up throughout the budget season, we'd appreciate being in contact. And if anybody on the board wants to take a tour, I'm sure you'd be gracious enough to show them around. It's a big department. There's a lot of
After you
moving parts.
described all
That was great.
stuff, I think I'm gonna skip your tour. Come to our cramped rooms and more.
We did have a change in our DARE school resource officer, and so there's a little bit of training. We promoted our former DARE SRO to sergeant, and he is taking on a shift. And so now we have a new DARE SRO. He's going to do a great job, very personable, and but that's going to involve some training. And now it's going to. We did get our comfort dog. I can't neglect to say.
Oh, what are they doing with him? What's Kevin doing with him?
Yeah, what's going on with Nola?
He's
Turn it
going to
back.
stay with her
Okay.
on shift, but then
Is Nola going back to the school?
Mark is gonna take her during the day.
Mark Corey.
Oh, Mark Poirier is? Oh, fantastic.
He went to school with me. He's a nice kid.
Yeah, so
A guy. He's a nice adult now.
yeah,
Okay.
she's gonna be on overtime to a certain extent.
Elizabeth, do you have something?
And hopefully Lucas was here.
I forgot about that.
Oh, Lucas wasn't here last year?
No, he was.
Lucas was?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
I think you just stepped in and
Yes.
your eyes were like this. So you were taking it all in. But yes, yeah, no.
All right, very good. So again, we appreciate you coming in. Thank you
you.
for coming in as well.
Great job, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too, guys. Nice job, Chief.
Thank
We'll
you.
be in touch.
All
Thank
right,
you.
very good.
You guys.
Okay, well, very good questions. I was gonna mention to him, it would have been just a little bit better for us if we had the backup before the meeting. I mean,
So I would like to know the increase, it's a 7%, but keep in mind, you've got steps and jumps, so 7% of total budget. That, most of those are obligations
Yep.
for salaries. So what was the percentage of,
So it's a
Non-salaries.
0% in one space, and it's a 2.91%, which is just the general
The
expenses.
expense.
yeah, I'm hoping to get that relief from the system.
so let's not take up any more of Shannon's time since
Thank
she's
you,
been here
Shannon.
since the beginning of the meeting.
Get a release of the 20,000.
Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting.
Go right ahead.
Your inaugural.
This should go out next
Review.
year.
What happened to the other director? She resigned?
She moved to Duxbury,
Oh,
closer to her home.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll go around the board. We'll start with our recording secretary, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Murphy, how are you? Hi, nice to meet you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Warner?
Nice to meet you.
Ralph Mitchell, also a veteran just like you.
I like it.
John Noon.
Hi, sir.
Kathleen O'Tina.
Rosemary, this is where you.
Rosemary Conley.
My name.
Sorry.
Say your name.
Nice to meet you. Again.
Lucas Moscoso.
Al Cafferty.
Chuck Colby.
And Rick Anderson, welcome.
I will remember your faces. We'll try to remember the
Yeah.
names.
There you
It'll
go.
take a while. We'll take it. So, as we mentioned when we had the police in, typically you just go right into your budget presentation in any order you like.
Okay.
We did get the backup, which was helpful. A very well explained backup page that came with the budget. Everybody got a copy of.
Okay.
And go ahead, start right in.
All right. So as you can see, I gave all that and then the backup. Starting with the different lines, I did break it down by lines because I don't have a ton like other departments, so it's a little bit easier for me to do. But the Care Soldiers Graves line, it's something like the cost and increase of the flags is going up. Right now it's $1.10. It's going up to $1.25. So that increase is huge. And even though we get 75% of that back from the state, we still have to pay for markers and things like that on top of it. And the DPW mows and takes care of certain parts of the graves, but not all of it. And or any of the monuments that are over there in any of the 4 cemeteries that are in Whitman. So we would like to be able to have a budget to be able to make sure those are maintained, because I mean, nobody's grave should, but especially veteran graves should not have anything wrong with them. And unfortunately right now, I don't even have enough to cover what I need to purchase this year for the 2024 budget. So that's why I'm asking for the increase in 2025 and hoping that it's not going to be too much more than that. On the next item is salaries. That's the 2.5% increase that I was,
That was part of the budget.
Reasonable.
part of the budget thing. So
Came up with a bill.
that's that. Those are the numbers for that. As far as my expenses go, not just, again, the increases I know are small. I'm asking just to be able to break even, because right now I'm like with this year, with the things that I already have going on, I think I'm going to be over, and I'm going to have to get it from somewhere else to pay for the things that I'm going to have to pay for this year. There were some unexpected things that I didn't know were going to be in there. I also came on after the budget was set, so I couldn't set it from last year. And if you look too at why some things were like increase and decrease and things like that, a lot of it had to do with, there were a lot of things that we did that weren't in play at the time because of COVID. Like they stopped having our meetings and our state trainings and all that stuff. Those things are all ramping back up again. And those trainings are huge because they're networking, they're training, they're ways for us to learn about new things that are out there for our veterans, so we can better help them in any way that we can. So, and as far as I've been told, the cost of living increase is at 3.2% right now, and that's going to start increasing everything. So there's definitely some expenses that we're going to need to take care of. In-state travel as well. Those are going up, so I need an increase there. As far as the actual Chapter 115 program, I did not ask for an increase at this time. I will say down the road in the future, it's probably going to need to be increased, because with the cost of living that's happening, we're going to have a lot more older veterans that are going to need assistance because they are not going to be able to pay for things. So I have a feeling that is going to go up, but I can't project that right now. So that's why I left it alone. And then my Memorial Day budget, I left the same. And obviously next year for 26, I will have to add the parade because it will be back in Whitman. So that's why that's not on this one, because that's every 3 years we have to pay for that. So, as I said, mine's pretty simple. I have a less than 1% increase in my budget, and that's including my salary. A one-person show, so it's only me.
Good charge.
That's all I have.
Okay, staff of one, very good. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
No HR
Start
problems.
with Rosemary.
I'm just gonna do the same thing I ask everybody. Population demographic and law changes that might affect your budget going forward, or that might create unexpected.
So the HERO Act was just talked about. I went to a press conference with Maura Healy that she held and her crew held. It hasn't been written into law, but it's coming. It's pretty much, I think it's, from my understanding, it's on the floor ready to be voted on. So if that comes into effect, what it does is it takes the threshold of what people need to be eligible for certain programs. So if right now, let's say it's at a single person, it's $2,600 a month. If they make that or less, they're eligible for a program. It would probably raise that cost because they know the cost of living increase. Therefore, more people are going to come to me asking me to be on those programs because they're now going to qualify. Because I have someone now who wants to be on and is only off by $22. I can't put her on the program because she's $22. She makes $22 more than she needs to.
And that would bump her.
And that's going to bump her up. So we have people like that just barely didn't make it, they're now going to come out of the woodwork, and I know that the state pays a portion of that back. They pay 75% of it back. But if we have a huge increase, it's going to change. Like what we have now, and that's also what we pay out now is what the current costs are. But people can get up to $2,700 a month in benefits from Chapter 115. Not everybody's on that. Some people are on $450 because they make much in certain areas, so they only get medical benefit, like medical reimbursements for Medicare B, the Med D, which is the prescriptions and things like that. Others, their situation is a lot more dire, so they get help with housing and fuel and other things. So it's a fluctuating program that it's very hard to fully budget out, because you never know how many veterans are going to be on it and what needs that they're going to have and what we're going to have to pay out. So as of right now, as I said, I think with the HERO Act, though, it's definitely going to change that. As far as population goes, the population as far as how many people are here is...
Or you just, a population that you serve will increase your sort of interest.
Yeah, I think that'll increase. Because we're getting a lot of people that are... there are a lot of people that don't know about the programs that are out there, so then through word of mouth, they hear, oh, well, I have this. Oh, you should go talk to them. So our claims, we've gone up. I don't think I put it in there, but for the 2023 stats have not come out yet. But for Whitman, we are number 13 in the Plymouth County, for towns in Plymouth County that for filing VA claims and other compensations and pensions. We're number 13 out of all the towns in Plymouth County.
How many are in the county?
20 something.
26 towns?
28.
Actually, this says...
It's 26.
Yeah, this is 52.
In Plymouth County?
Yeah. Well, sorry, some of these are not Plymouth County.
Right.
I take that back.
I believe it's 26.
Yeah, so there's 23 there.
Yeah.
No, they're all Plymouth County. That's what it says, 52. We have 52 towns that are considered in Plymouth County, because this comes from the state VA. Like the EVOS sends this out to us every year.
Above average.
And yes, yeah, we are definitely above average. Like we do total for the year of all rewards between death pensions, DIC, which is a dependent compensation, that if a 100% disabled veteran were to pass away, we could give them a monthly stipend to help take care of them because their husband passed or wife passed, and now it's that fund. There's veteran pensions and compensations, but right now in Whitman, based on 2022 numbers, all awards were $425,873.63 that we have worked to help veterans get in this town for compensation, to be able just to pay basic stuff and help them out if they're, have been injured.
What was the total amount there?
$425,873.63.
Seems low for being number 13. Is that?
The highest is, it's probably going to go up, because I know Sarah did a lot last year and we were waiting on those numbers. She did a ton of VA claims last year.
Okay.
So it's probably going to go up. As I said, I have not been sent the new numbers yet for 2023.
What's the time frame for those numbers? I'm sorry.
It's
How long?
from my understanding, they do it yearly, and they send out these numbers yearly. So,
What site, where can we get those numbers? Is it on DESI or is it?
this is something I think that the EVOS puts out. I tried, because this was given to me when I started. It was from last year, and I have not received, and I was told that EVOS will send this out.
Okay.
And I have not gotten it yet, so.
Did you get your 3 questions in? Was it 3? Well, I just said no. I'm asking.
I did my three. I did my
Oh,
three.
okay, I'm just asking.
And they were all sort of part of the three. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what about the
that's
demographics is changing, and what about the laws are changing?
Well,
And
it's
she did a
just,
great job. Thank you so much.
okay. Questions, John?
Are you familiar with how our finance committee excess money, our slush fund that helps cover budget shortfalls?
No, sir. No one's.
Slush
Like,
fund?
that
Talking
one-
about no
How's that?
Gaggy?
John, you got me? I've never heard of a slush fund.
Reserve account, whatever.
Oh,
We have a reserve account?
a reserve fund.
Of $35,000.
Oh, the town's reserve, not the finance committee specifically.
Well, we
It goes to.
we actually
We vote on it.
We can
It's not called a slush fund.
I know.
It was slush and Whitman.
So, John, what point would you like to make for her to understand?
she's talking about a shortfall. We have,
35
if you
grand.
want to explain to her, whatever you want to call it,
We can come back.
so that
Sure.
she's aware that we may or may not have a way of helping her out.
Yeah, well, a reserve fund really is for a shortfall that was unexpected.
Unexpected. She's
What we're
expecting
doing
this.
right now is the budget season. We should be funding this budget to what the veterans' needs, right, are. Whether that has to come at the expense of some other department, I think you should make a case for your department.
No.
Right? If you see that there's additional money that's going to be required in this fiscal year for things like the HEROES Act and that type of thing, you should be advocating for your budget in conversations with the town administrator, because that who ultimately is going to prepare an initial budget, right? Then it would come to us for
Yeah.
recommendations. So all I'm saying is, John makes a good point. You should make sure that you're given the parameters when you get the budget mailing. However, each department has needs that come up. Emergent needs, like what Rosemary mentions, new legislation, or something like that causes your budget to increase.
Yeah, and that just came out a week ago, so I haven't had time to even look over it, and I kind of didn't put it in here just because I don't know how much of it's going to get put into law and how much is not, based off what gets removed around and everything else. So I know it's coming, but I don't know exactly how bad, like how much it's going to affect.
So
But
that's a very popular law. It's backed by not only veterans agents, it's backed by teachers.
Yeah.
And teachers unions. So that's probably going to go in pretty close to its totality, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
and and on top of it, and again, just because this is my first time and I didn't want to come right in and nail with a lot of extra stuff here, but I don't have budget for outreach or anything like that to get out there to get the word out to what services we do offer to veterans. I have no outreach for that whatsoever. I have no budget to be able to do it. I have to put together a proposal to hopefully be able to get a, as long as it gets approved by the town administrators and selectmen, to get a fund. It would be called a gift fund, that I can accept donations to be able to help veterans out, because right now I can't even accept donations. If someone were to come to me with a check, I can't accept it. So hopefully I can get that, so then if I have because I don't even have money, if I have a veteran that's homeless and I have to put them up somewhere, if they can't go to Father Bill's, I can't do it. I have no money to help them. And that veteran's on their own.
What's the difference in percentage-wise from last year to this year?
I only increased it by less than 1%.
Then I'd go keep it on 2.5, or if not more. You know what I mean? And look at that. Look at the project that we just discussed. We just discussed about the program that they may roll out, what it may cost, and incorporate that in. It's just preliminary budget process and put it in there. I would recommend that, right?
So another thing I would think that would be a good idea for your presentation is, we did this strategic plan. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
No, sir.
But 2 years ago, we embarked on this. It's been in the works for quite a long time, but there's a strategic plan in place now for the town of Whitman. And specifically for the Veteran Services Department, there are things that citizen services that you're mentioning that are spelled out in this strategic plan that you should be advocating for your department. And I'll tell you 4 of them. So one of them is to ensure all services are accessible. Utilize available resources, grants, ARPA, foster citizens' engagement, and that's through social media and outreach. You mentioned outreach. So those things fall well into the planks of this strategic plan that was developed. And the last one is to enhance citizen communication. So through email, phone, in person, all of those things are things that are going to need resources for your department.
Yes, I just got permission to be able to set up a veteran services Facebook page, Instagram page, and a Twitter page, so that I can use that to be able. But again, that's my time maintaining it. So,
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So this is on the town's website if you want to download a copy of this
Right.
and see how perhaps you can use the strategic plan in presenting your case to put the budget forward that's going to meet the needs of the veterans for the upcoming year.
Yeah, that is cool. You can use it.
I can connect you with, I used to be the scoutmaster of the troop in town. 2 years ago, one of the boys replaced all the markers of the graves for veterans in the town. Considerably less money than I think what you've got budgeted here, but I think he still has, he donated them all. The VFW, I think, has all of those things. But there's a great access point right there, too. Take advantage of that, set up. This was... one of the challenges they had here, of course, was they were putting up brass markers and they would be disappearing left and right. People were just selling them at the brass. So I don't remember what he used. It was aluminum or something else. But
I think they're plastic now, gold painted.
they might be.
Yeah.
I don't even remember now.
He opted for.
Quality.
Connor did that. We did that.
Yeah. But like I said, some of those things are here, and happy to help connect you with some of those
So
folks.
just quickly, when you purchase things over 5,000, you gotta be careful to do it. Like she can't do it like open market. It has to be done in a different way.
No, but it could be the same thing. That was donated from the citizens, which is
It could
part
be
of the
donated.
strategic plan, right?
Outreach. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, things like that I can accept as far as donations. If someone were to actually physically give me an item,
Like a gift
that,
card.
like a gift
Yeah.
card or something to that effect, I can take it. Like a lady knitted a blanket, and I ended up giving it to a veteran who is on dialysis right now, so it was a huge thing. Meant a lot to them. But as far as money goes, to be able to, do different things, like I know in different towns, at any of the town functions that they have. I'll use Abington, for example, just because I know that one a ton because I live in Abington. But every Oktoberfest and every event they have, Veteran Services has a booth set up that has information and stuff for them to give out, and
Your outreach.
and it's a huge outreach, and that's how I got in with Adam Gunn over in Abington. He does a ton of that stuff, and that's definitely some things that I need to be able to get, is to be able to do that so that I can do that, and whether I do that through upping the budget or whether I can do it through donations, in either way, like to be able to then take care of that, we need to do that.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for it in the budget. I think the Board of Health, they asked for outreach. We have a new Board of Health, relatively new, and they're pretty big outreach, and I'm pretty sure they asked for a little extra money last year, and I think they got it, for that purpose.
Rosemary.
So it seems that over the years, we've had a department that's just let the letter go up, just to distribute the bare minimum for veterans. But our strategic plan is geared towards, before you came, has a direction that it seems to be you're wanting to take it. Is that what you're saying, Rick? The strategic plan, you have it right there.
Yeah.
Public outreach, all of those things. So planning for that doesn't happen for free. So when the selectmen are doing their budget, they're also including that they're supposed to be meeting these thresholds each year to build exactly that.
Right. So Shannon, you'll be meeting, you already have met with the town administrator, Mary
sir.
Beth? Oh, you haven't?
I have not.
Okay. So meetings with her have already started with town departments. So you'll be meeting with her in the near future. So those are the type of things that you just want to present about what the long-term needs are, not just the budgetary needs this year. So, like you heard from the other budget presentation, that the town has three large capital projects in the next coming years that are going to really cause the taxpayers to tighten the belt for everything else, so it's just important that you advocate for your department, that's all.
Yeah, I want to make it really, debt is different than levy.
I'm just saying the taxpayer's implication, I'm not saying that
And I understand, but
it's being deducted from the budget, yes, we are.
Clear that the 2.5% of each year that rolls up organically through normal taxation is the budget. So if a level service or the strategic plan should keep in place, that should have kept in pace with our normal 2.5, unless something was done. Let's say, debt was hidden within our levy. Right.
Okay, so, do you know Ralph is your liaison, right?
Yes, sir.
Ralph Mitchell. So if there's something that comes up, during this budget season, in the next 4 months before town meeting in May, feel free to reach out to Ralph, reach out to me. You wanna come back in and sit with the committee at any time, feel free to just drop an email, okay? And my cell phone is always on.
Congratulations on your
It
new
is.
job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I just
Okay,
have
one last
quick
question.
Oh, sorry,
Yes, sir.
we got two.
Even early in the morning.
Go ahead, Ralph, and then,
Ralph, go ahead.
All right.
so-
I know every so often they do the town census. They have on there, your political affiliation, but they also ask, "Are you a veteran? Yes or no?" And I'm wondering if you get all that data, as to how many veterans we have here.
No, sir. I went to the town clerk actually this week because I've had a lot of people ask me from the VFW and the American Legion as far as what veterans are in need to be able to, donate Christmas gifts and things like that to those families. And so I went up to get the list because I was going to make some contacts, and I was told by the town clerk that there's a law in it that says that I am not allowed to have that information, that is not public information.
You aren't?
What?
Correct. That's
That
what I
does
was.
not make
That
sense.
makes no
That's
sense.
what
You
I- and
are
she-
the Veteran Services Office.
But I
How
guess
can you service the veterans if you don't have the information?
Ralph will get it for you.
Yeah, Ralph, you gotta get
the way it was explained to me was that they are getting that information technically for the state because
Can you
it's
get it through the state?
I don't know, but because they're kind of just doing the legwork for the state, that's state information that they can't just. It's not something that they can disperse out throughout the town. From what
Okay.
that's how it was explained to me.
And you may not know this, but maybe this is a general question. Hey, on the substance line, do we know if that's expended completely every year? And like I said, I know you're new and everything. You may not-
Yeah, that I don't know if they.
I guess, and this, where I'm going with this, it might be a question for the town administrator. If that doesn't get expended, does that go back to free cash?
Everything's
Sure
supposed
could.
anything.
Because my thought is, this is an ongoing thing. Why maybe that should be turned into like a revolving fund or something that stays there
Right.
to help with the future needs.
I think, that department.
Which line are you talking about?
770.
Subsistence line. This is the basically the money that we allocate
Subsistence,
a
okay.
budget
Yeah. So
for all the benefits, right?
yes, it's under veteran benefits.
Yeah.
But that is the money that is specifically allocated out to be able to pay for
benefits,
Chapter
yeah.
115.
Because it's fluctuated and stuff.
Doing 115. This department is primarily only handled 115 regulated stuff.
Yeah.
And we're beginning to expand, and then our plan
Yeah.
is to expand out.
And again, I know that it gets, the state does reimburse back for it, but the question is because that is a fund that is supposed to help veterans that are at their worst. Question I have is, am I allowed to use some of that fund if I needed to pay? Can I pull out of that fund since 75% does get reimbursed back to the town, and you're technically paying 25% of that money that's budgeted out? Can I use some of that money to be able to, if I have a veteran that's homeless, can I pull from that fund?
And that's a policy
Well,
thing, or
So that's a line item transfer, right? It's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a
So you
legitimate.
can certainly direct that to the town administrator.
Yeah.
In my mind, It'd be a line item transfer, so.
Yeah,
There's just a
that's
form that
within
has to
your,
be filled out.
As the budget manager, that's what that's your job, is to take the resources that you're given within your budget and move them within the lines of the budget.
to make it big. I just have a quick question. It is your job to care for veterans within our community. Yes, voter services, but because we're funded to the minimum amount, would that disrupt your ability to meet all the regulations from the law? And is that included in that the bare minimum we have been doing for veterans
Yeah.
for so long?
Well, as far as Chapter 115 goes, at the end of the day, even if I'm over budget by, I could be over budget by $100,000. It does not matter. I have to pay the Chapter 115 benefits to veterans. It is a state mandated program that we just happen to run in each town.
Okay.
So I don't want to touch that fund because I want to make sure we have enough money to take care of veterans, and I don't have to go and jump through a bunch of hoops and go through a lot of red tape to, if I have an influx of people that come onto that program. And right now, you have a lot of Vietnam veterans that are getting to that retirement age, if they haven't already. And with cost of living increases or spouses that pass away, we're going to have more people on that program. Right now, I have the 50% of the people I have on the program are widows because it's available to them as well. The other half is veterans. So, and as I said, I think with the increase of that age group of veterans, we're going to have more. And a ton of them right now are all filing for Agent Orange and things like that, which is going to make them more they're going to have a lot more benefits available to them.
So maybe you're right, but she should be coming back in pink.
Yeah, I wasn't looking so much at what you're proposing for the next fiscal year, but if you run into problems in this current year, you need to at least have a chat with the BRIC and the town administrator about
A reserve fund transfer.
Yeah.
It is like a relief valve. So,
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I came into this position and I had to have a budget up to the town administrator within a month of me being here. So
pretty good.
like
Job.
I'm still learning
Yeah.
what needs and everything else have been okay, what is going to need to be done. So next year's budget might look a little bit different, but
let me just say this, you're in the top 10 percentile with the backup that you provided this morning.
Yeah, great backup.
Good
Thank
job.
you so much.
thank you.
Right.
All right, anything else for Shannon? Then get her out of here.
Well, good job. Good
Nice
presentation.
meeting
Thank you very
Nice
much.
to meet you all too.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
Y'all, you down south?
I did live in North Carolina for
I
about
knew
7
it.
years.
I was
Right.
Say North Carolina.
Nice to meet you. What service were you in?
Air Force.
All right. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, enjoy your night and happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Guys.
All right, so looking at our agenda, that is the new business expended for tonight. All good questions. I appreciate the homework that everybody did to provide questions in advance. So we have old business items, subcommittee report. Anything to report, Kathleen, out of the Capital Committee?
Capital Committee, we met November 9th, and I believe, except for the library and the Council on Aging, all of the capital requests have been received. Don has not shared them. Don Essen is the chair. He hasn't shared them with the members yet, but he is planning to get them organized and get them out to us.
Okay,
We are proactively working to encourage the department heads to generate the 5-year plan that the Finance Committee has asked for in the last fiscal years. Although I was reminded, we don't make the capital plan, we just organize the capital plan. But I don't think it would hurt for us to suggest to department heads, please tell us what you need for the next 5 years. So that was the capital committee. We're meeting in January, we're not meeting again in December. Regional Agreement Committee met last night, and I'm pleased to report that the issue of transportation is going to be delved into at our next meeting.
oh, good.
Good.
Thank you.
About time to get that done.
Yeah, Laura Kemet joined as the select person from Hanson, and she was surprised that there were more Hanson students riding the bus than Whitman. I said, you're a bigger town, because we do the mileage method. So yes, we have more children, but you have more miles. So she will not be pleased with the financial outcome when it's rectified. Middle school building committee, you all know that it's going, got the thumbs up, and we are negotiating the contract with the OPM and the architect. That's the next step, and then away we go. I think that's the only three committees on that.
Excellent. That's a lot. It's a lot of committees to be on. So we appreciate your feedback. Public Works Department Building Committee has not met since the additional funding was approved. I think I mentioned last week that there's some home rule petition legislation that has to take place in order for us to access the money that was approved at town meeting. So it's going to just put a little delay in it. And so as soon as we meet, we'll have it.
What sort of home rule petition?
I'm not really sure about the legalese, but there's a process that needs to take place in order to encumber the funds, basically the way they were
What a home rule
voted.
petition is, right?
I might be, don't quote me as a home rule petition. It's some legislation, so I'm
It's a
not,
home rule petition, most likely.
yeah. So all like I said, I don't have any other information other than the fact that there has to be some kind of legislation to take place before we can move forward with the contract that has all of the money in place. So,
Could you supply us with the language in that home rule petition, please?
Excuse me.
Well, what has been filed, it should be with Brady's office, because he's the home rule petition office. Just if you could get what's being asked.
okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, and then I will ask also as a follow-up for the facilities manager report, see if we can get that electronically sent. Because what was the question you had, John, to see if,
You two visited
oh, the
the
fire
fire
station.
department.
Right. We want to see if the
Sounded like
deficiency.
there was bubble gum and duct tape holding the floor together.
At the fire, where was
Fire
it?
station.
Fire station, yeah.
I'd like to know whether that actually made it into
Right.
his report.
So long term, that's something that we need to start thinking about is that building. You know what I mean? So the facilities manager report should indicate the deficiency there, I would hope. So as soon as I get that, I'll get that out to the committee.
Should that not also be published in the annual report?
Yeah.
I know
Yes,
it's a
it should
report
be.
that goes to the selectman, but he's a department manager.
We had all we could do to get it to this committee, if you recall.
I understand.
And the other thing we don't think we have a fire department budget, right?
I can't,
Not yet.
I thought I saw it.
But I'm sure he'll get it to us soon.
Well, before-
Well, 1
before
week to
next
go.
Tuesday.
So, is that it?
So that's it for the audit. I think that was another thing for follow-up with Mary Beth, who's on vacation this week. I was going to ask her what is in the audit. What are we looking for? So
Yep.
that's another follow-up question I have on my list.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody needs to follow?
I had a quick question. Did you manage to send out the Tewksbury,
Kingsbury?
the T one? I can't
Kingsborough?
pronounce.
Kingsbury?
Yeah, that one. The breakout for the MBTA Community Act and their community plan for that. It shows community engagement and a very responsible path forward. I'm still going to have to go. But that would be what just a review of everybody here before I said or did anything.
Okay. I didn't forward it to the rest of the
I
committee.
think maybe the rest of the committee could look at it because it also informs them on what the MBTA Community Act is. It has links on that page as well.
Okay, so we are a recommending committee, but we should be mindful of legislation or other political issues that affect
That's not political.
the financial aspects of the town, right? I'm just saying,
Yeah.
generally
Yeah.
speaking. This is one of those things that
Yes.
I'm referring to, so.
Yes.
So when we meet with the Board of Selectmen on December 5th, if there's other things that you want to bring up, let's talk about them next week so we can kind of organize our meeting so it's not all over the place if we can, So let's make some kind of an outline, and I did put that in the agenda.
Yeah, and
that I just
that's-
posted tonight for next week.
What I'm gonna speak to is pretty much in line with that particular.
Right.
I'm gonna be asking for.
And I'm just using that as an example for other members of the committee, if there's something that you would like to bring to the attention of the selectmen that have an effect on our
I
budget.
actually would like to give that information to the whole committee, and if anybody can speak more articulate to me than I can on it, they're welcome, but they could be informed on the matter, and I'll try to get monies back and talk to the person in charge. Mr. Augusta is in charge of that department at the State House, and try to get a phone call in with him to get a sense of what sort of monies we might be at risk of losing.
So I will forward that email from Rosemary, and just so you know, I don't forward every email from Rosemary because you guys would have left this committee years ago.
You're welcome for doing all the footwork for you guys. If you just want to,
Would it be like the training?
Kathleen is also
calmed down over the years, though.
Yeah, but I'm retired, so I have the time.
You're not retired.
I read a lot, guys. I
Full-time
read a
job,
lot.
Kathleen.
All right, no, we appreciate everybody's efforts, it really makes a difference. So that's all I can see in our, I think that exhausts our agenda, and a meeting to, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Second.
All in favor? All right,
Unanimous.
thank you all, have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday.
Thanks, sir.
You too.